community members to the Spring 2018 Sophomore Benchmark Portfolio Defenses. First, I want to begin by introducing the participants that are present in the room today. Let's start.
Yeah, I'm Mr. Lee. I'm a geometry teacher here.
If you don't mind.
And I'm Kim Young. I'm Mackenzie's mother.
All right.
And this is Tyler, her brother.
I'm Nellie Camacho. I'm the freshman, I guess.
All right. Thank you. And you are?
I'm Mackenzie Patterson. I'm the tutor.
Great. Thank you. For today's session, and I'm Tristan Lysowski, I'm going to be the serving advisor for Mark Smith. Mark Smith wasn't able to make it today, so I'm serving in his place today. For today's session, I will be facilitating this defense as the room runner and serving advisor, and I will also ensure that the defense presentation, timing, and scoring protocols are followed exactly. I will also participate in asking questions during the Q&A sessions, as well as support the student through the entire defense process, as well as vote on the student's performance during the deliberations. I will also be serving in the role of serving advisor and will advocate for the student during their defense. Tristan Lysowski will be joining us today as the serving advisor, who will advocate for the student during their defense. Mr. Lee will also participate by asking questions in the Q&A sessions and vote on the student's performance during the deliberations. Mackenzie will be joining us today as the senior panelist, who will ensure that I apologize, we do not have a student panelist here today. You can disregard. We are very thankful for your commitment to be here and your willingness to participate in today's process. Sophomores have spent the last 2 years developing knowledge and skills which culminate in today's defense presentation. So why do we do portfolio defenses? Bryan Adams High School Leadership Academy students must prove that they are ready to go on to the next level by demonstrating that they can know, do, and reflect. This is done by presenting an argument that uses their best past projects as evidence of a metacognitive assessment of their learning in the world in a college level form. We believe in this as an authentic test of that learning. The defense will begin with introductions, a student defense presentation, a panel of questions and answers, deliberations, and finally, a decision of pass with distinction, or resubmission. In order to make this process as seamless and supportive as possible, these are room norms that we are all agreeing to abide by in this process and will uphold ourselves and everyone present in this room to the highest degrees of professionalism possible. First, we will be tenacious by being present and switching off all electronic devices. Please do not put them on vibrate, and please do not have them in a place where they could be a distraction. Next, we will be collaborative and respect the others in the room, including what owns the panel's decision about the defense. Absolutely no comments, questions, or side conversations at any point during a defense. Finally, we will be reflective and avoid doing anything that would distract the defender in any way. This includes eating or drinking, and please do not move about the room or leave during a defense for any reason. Finally, I would like to introduce the serving advisor, myself, once more in order to introduce the defending sophomore and get the defense started. Good morning, panelists, friends, family, and community members. Thank you for attending Mackenzie's Sophomore Benchmark Portfolio Defense. She has attended Bryan Adams High School Leadership Academy since her freshman year. Mackenzie is currently involved in bells, swim, and dance company. She performs extremely well with math equations and chemistry equations, with her both wonderful abilities that will aid them in being successful in their future endeavors. This past year, Mackenzie has really grown in the areas of chemistry and demonstrates that he or she is committed with her education and learning experience by taking part in her sophomore benchmark portfolio defense today. At this time, we welcome to the floor Mackenzie to begin their benchmark portfolio defense presentation.
My name is Mackenzie Patterson, and today I'll be performing my benchmark portfolio defense. So the agenda, we're going to start off about me, the reasons for the portfolio defense, the thesis statement, artifact number 1, artifact number 2, and then the conclusion. So a little bit about me. I'm a sophomore at Bryan Adams Leadership Academy. I am on the Brian Adams Bells drill team. I am also on the Brian Adams dance company, which is like a modern type of dance. I'm on the swim team. I love helping others, and I love trying my best to give my all to others, and I love spending time with my family. And my favorite part about school is doing fun mathematical chemical equations. So this is just a couple of pictures about basically my weekend. Bells, we went to our first competition and we won grand championship. And then my family got to come, and then for swim team, we went to state this weekend and we did really good. We broke the school record. And then that's me from this past summer at a mission trip down in Alabama. We helped this elderly lady. We redid her roof, and it was really, really fun to help her. And then this is my family. We went to Disney World this Christmas, and it was really fun. Yeah. So why do we complete defenses? The purpose is to show what we've learned and accomplished so far in high school. It shows that we understand the concepts and that I'm ready to conquer and be tenacious even more in the 11th grade. My thesis statement is I'm ready to advance to junior year because I've been giving it my all and doing the best that I could possibly do. I'm ready to conquer and prevail to the next grade. My quote is, God had a plan before anyone had an opinion, by Stuart Hall. I heard this at one of the it's called Big Stuff. It's a church trip that we take in the summer down to Panama City Beach, Florida, and we're there for a week. And we have different speakers come in, and they just tell different stories, and this quote really stood out to me. So. Artifact number 1. My reading component is Think Critically. The class that I will be covering is my human body systems. The essential question is, what is the greatest health concern for being overweight, and how would you advise and guide a client struggling with energy imbalance into a healthier lifestyle? By completing artifact number 1, it shows I'm ready to advance to junior year, as stated in my thesis, because it shows I've been giving it 100% every day. Artifact number 1, no. Body mass index, known as BMI, it determines what category you are in based on height and weight. Doctors use this to help their patients know exactly, categorize them to see if they're in a healthy stage of life or if they need to get into a healthier stage of life. BMR is basal metabolic rate. It's the number of calories needed for your body to stay alive. So if you don't have the high enough BMR, or if your BMR is too high, then it will lead you to cardiac arrest or death even. TDE is total daily energy expenditure. It's the most realistic number, and it's the number of calories needed in a day to remain as you are. The accountant of activity levels are included. Artifact number 1, do. I needed to study lots of terms in order to complete the tasks. Like those definitions, you really have to understand the importance of the definitions and how they work, because if you don't know exactly the category for the BMR or BMI, then you can give your client the wrong information and it will really hurt the lifestyle. I also have to be able to explain the statements clearly to my patient. Without being clear, then they won't understand exactly what I'm trying to help them with or how they need to get help. Also understand to calculate the problems properly. Without doing the problems properly of their weight and their height, then I could have easily said, oh, you need to have this much of percentage more protein, but really they needed less percentage of protein. And then this is a picture of my work, and I'll pass it around. And this is the health history that we got over our patient, and I had to highlight the importance of the report, and it shows my calculations. And then this dietitian report I had to write for the patient, At first I got an 87 because I wasn't really clear. I had to take some new recommendations and I fixed it, and once I fixed it, I got 100. So once I finished the dietitian's report, it was really clear to the patient of how much exactly he needs to take into his body to get better, just overall a healthier lifestyle. The restatement of thesis, I'm ready to advance to junior year because I've been giving it my all and doing as best as possible. I'm ready to conquer and prevail to the 11th grade. By completing artifact number 1, it shows I'm ready to advance. As stated in my thesis, I'm ready to advance to junior year because by giving it all 100% every day and trying my best. My artifact number 1 reflect, the connections to the world is able to check personal health. So once I learned how to do all of the proper equations, it was so fun because I asked my teacher, I was like, is it possible to learn where I am on the scale of my BMI and BMR? She's like, yeah. She's like, just get your weight and get like all your properly like what was asked. And so I did. I got my weight, I got my height, and I did the calculation. I plugged it in, and it was really cool. And I'm on the right scale of where I'm supposed to be for my age. So that's really cool. I also learned new careers. I didn't really know what a dietitian was, so I learned that dietitians help people who need to learn where they are in their life and how to eat healthier. Connections to other classes was increasing my math skills. By taking this class, it's really increased my equation skills and how to learn how not only to be able to do it fast, but without using a calculator or piece of paper. So now I know the correct equation. I can just find out their height and weight and the other numbers and just plug it in, and I'll get the correct equation and everything. The connection to BA6 is think critically. I really had to think by doing this report and the dietitian report to give to the client. I had to explain and think critically of what's really important to get to the client. I don't need to give too much where it confuses the client, but I don't need to give not enough to where he's still confused. My strengths and improvements. The strengths is being able to accomplish this project and understand everything clearly of what I've studied and what's been taught to me over this year. My improvements is inform the patient more briefly but still precisely. So once my teacher gave me back my report of where I needed to fix it, I took it back, I took an account of how much I needed to fix, and I did it pretty briefly, and I was so precise with everything that needed to be fixed. Questions for artifact number 1?
At this time, I would like to open the opportunity for panelists to ask the defender questions about their first artifacts. So how can you use this project and to build and prepare yourself for 11th grade? How did this project prepare you for that?
So the class that I'm in now, well, freshman year I was in Principles of Biomedical, and that was the first class to really get you started and understand how the heart works, the lungs, the kidneys, basically how the whole body system works. The class I'm currently in is Human Body System, so we went deeper into it, and now we're learning how to properly take care of those organs in your body and how to use the correct equations to help you take care of them. Next year will be medical interventions, so it will be a more higher level kind of class, but it's still going to use the same things. I'm going to have to use the same equations to figure out the same like questions as given, but they may be a little more harder for me to like get. So.
Thank you. I would like to know how this work really helps you in your presentation.
Yeah. So, can I see it real quick? I'll just point it out. So, The description for, well, my client's name was Hans Spillman, and it gives his health history of his background, of his family, what he's allergic to, what he's not allergic to. It tells what he does. So most of the week, he sticks mainly to pasta, hamburgers, frozen pizza, and he is overweight. And the only family history is he has cardiovascular disease. And so by taking all of the things and giving his cholesterol and his blood pressure and his weight was 274 pounds and his height was 5'11". So by doing the calculations and plugging it in, I really got to understand how a person, like if they're overweight, how it affects their body. And so by him not eating really healthy, he snacks a lot during the day, and he's allergic to the protein, the seafood, like for you to eat fish or anything, like he can't eat that. So it's really hard to describe to the patient what exactly he can eat without obviously having an allergic reaction or something else happening. So with having this, it helps me do the report to be exactly like on point of what he needs to have and how much percentage to take in without overdoing it.
You referenced that you had to think critically when you were kind of going through this process and going through this performance assessment. Were there any other BA6 leadership skills that you also utilized aside from the thinking critically?
Probably solve problems resourcefully, because if I had given the wrong information to him, then I would have had to think, like, what would have I told the client if I had given them the wrong information. So I really had to think and solve the equations correctly, because even if you're off by 0.1% or something, it's really devastating to the client.
Thank you. And then you talked a little bit more about, you mentioned one of your strengths was your ability to accomplish projects and you're able to understand the content. And then you referenced a weakness that I wasn't able to catch that. Could you talk a little bit more about the weakness and then a plan that you have to kind of overcome that, like looking ahead as you approach 11th and 12th grade?
So my improvement was to inform the patient more briefly. By this piece of paper, I didn't really, I gave how much fat he's consuming and how much he needs to not consume, but I didn't give the exact percentage. So once I finished this, redid it, and I gave the exact percentage, I was able to clearly give the patient exactly what he needed. So by doing my weakness, increasing my weakness, I was able to really be more clear to the patient, I guess. And by doing this, I don't know, it just really helps me. Now I know exactly what to tell the patient. Because if you were my patient and I didn't tell you something, but I told him exactly what he needed to know, what if I didn't inform you enough? And what if, but that's how I think of it. So that's how I'm gonna increase my.
Mr. Lee, do you have any additional questions? Okay. So if there are no more questions, Mackenzie, you can go ahead and please present your second artifact.
So my artifact number 2, the class I will be doing over is chemistry. The BA6 I will be doing is solve problems resourcefully. My essential question is, why is chemical composition important? Chemical composition is important because it lets us understand the relationship between the number of atoms or moles and their masses. By completing this artifact, it shows I'm ready to advance to the next grade. I've given it 100% since day 1. the know, I need to know a lot of vocabulary to really understand the concept of this whole project. So for chemistry, you need to know all of these terms: elements, stoichiometry, percent composition, limiting reactions, mole to mole, mole to gram, and gram to gram. Stoichiometry is the using of law conservation to plan, predict the amount of substances in a chemical reaction. The percent composition is the percentage by mass that an atom makes up in a formula. Limiting reactions is the reactant that runs out first. Mole to mole uses coefficients, and it's the easiest conversion out of the three. Mole to grams uses coefficients and molar mass, which is a two-step process. And gram to grams uses coefficients and molar mass twice, which is a three-step process. Artifact number 2, do. I had to learn a lot of new vocabulary. So without learning all of those terms and really understanding how to properly use them, I would not have gotten as far as I did in this project, and I wouldn't have been able to complete it. I also had to learn how to do the new equations. So with this project, I'll send around exactly what we had to do. And you had to know a lot of equations for different steps. There were several steps that you had to take, and without knowing these equations, I wouldn't have gotten to complete it because it was a lot. I also had to learn new concepts for all of those terms and how to properly use them. So here's the project that we did. So it was a lab, and we were trying to figure out how much, well, it was with baking soda and vinegar. And so we heated the baking soda 3 times, and by heating it, we were seeing how much of the gas is released. And since we use baking soda to cook, how does it affect how we cook? So by heating it, we did the percentages of how much baking soda and gas is left. And then we used all of the different equations right here. And then I just showed my work and why this project was important. And then based off of that, we had to write an essay showing exactly what we needed off the rubric off the back of the page. And I just plugged in all of my work and my equations into the procedures and everything, and I really showed how my calculations worked and how the reactions really did. So we were given 3 reactions, and each group, your results would be different. So we had 3 reactions. Out of those 3 reactions, one of the reactions could have been your result. So my reaction was the 3rd reaction, and our reaction, we were actually the closest. We were only over by 0.155, and the reaction was 0.195. So we were just over it just a little. So here's the work. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. My statement of thesis is I will advance to junior year by giving it 100% every day. By completing artifact number 2, it shows I'm ready to advance as stated in my thesis. I'm ready to advance to junior year since I have been giving it 100% every day. My reflect, my connections to the world is seeing how much chemicals is being released once we use baking soda to cook. So I know that I'm not really a cooking person, but when my grandma cooks, or even when I watch cooking videos, some people use baking soda, which I don't really know the reason to that, but now once I see from doing this project how much chemicals is actually released from the baking soda and how much is still in it once we eat it after being cooked. Connections to other classes is increasing my mathematical skills and also being capable of doing chemical equations. So chemical equations and mathematical equations, they're kind of the same, but then they're different because you have to plug in the different elements from the periodic table, and then once you get that, you have to find out exactly how many elements of that product are you using. Connection to the BA6 is solve problems with sourcefully, since I had to exactly figure out and follow the procedure of how to exactly get down to which reaction and how did that reaction occur. Any questions for effect number 2?
At this time, I would like to open the opportunity for panelists to ask the defender questions about their second artifact. So, in your thesis, you referenced giving it 100%. Can you give me maybe 1 or 2 examples of what does that look like?
Okay, so I love, we said at the beginning, I love mathematical equations. So once I see something, it's like I'm at the tip of my chair, like I do it so fast because it's so fun. And even if I finish it before the whole class, I go back and I do it again just to make sure it's okay. Also, if I had any questions, I would go ask Mr. Delgado, or I would come after school and fix the problems, and I would try to do my best because he uses me as an example, and I don't want to be the example who doesn't give it my all and do the questions properly.
For artifact number 2, can you elaborate more how this relates to the real world?
Yeah, so since we use baking soda to cook and stuff, there's chemicals all around us, and a lot of people don't understand that. Like, they think it's just when you're at like a chemical building, but there's literally chemicals everywhere. And so by doing this, it really shows me that when we cook that we're releasing chemicals right in front of our face, even if we don't see it. And it's just baking soda is a little thing it's just a little bit of chemicals. Just imagine all the other stuff. Even toothpaste has chemicals that we don't understand that is being released.
So I've got a question that has 2 parts.
Okay.
So my first question would be, what are some of your strengths that you used during this BA that you felt like helped you or benefited you throughout that process?
Okay, so my strengths, I would say being able to complete the equations, and also just being able to really understand, because at first I really had a really hard time of how to write the essay, because it wasn't really clear on the example, and I was really confused. But once I went to tutoring and I asked for a lot of help, it got to me, and then I started feeling it, and then I completed it. And so my strength is just being not giving up, even though I want to, because it's really hard. Just keep striving for excellence and continue to do your work.
Okay. So you may have already answered my second question, but I'm going to ask it anyways and see if you have anything more to elaborate. In terms of weaknesses that were, or gaps or areas of improvement that you found as you were working on this project, what were they and what did you do to overcome them?
Yeah, definitely not understanding the example and how to properly answer them. So on Google Docs, I wrote my essay, and Mr. Delgado went through and he highlighted what was too much information, what I needed to add on. So at first I had a lot of irrelevant information. So once I cleared that off, I was able to minimize it and really understand it, and just continue to keep going even though it's hard.
What's your plan for the future? You seem like you're very into science.
Yeah, I am.
I'm just curious to hear
So,
what your plan is for the future.
I've always wanted to be an orthodontist. It's always attracted my attention. And it's so fun because you still use the mathematical equations of how wide the mouth is, how to properly put the braces on or the mouth utensils. But now that I'm getting into chemistry and my human body systems class, I'm really into forensic science and I'm really into being a chemist. So we have family friends who are chemists, and every time I see them, I'm just always asking them like questions of what they do, and it's just so satisfying because each day you have like forensic science. It's not the same scene, it's something else, and you're never going to see that scene again. It's going to be something different. And chemists, you're making something like toothpaste. If it kills 99.9% of germs, does it really? So you have to figure out, does it really kill that amount of germs, and give it to people and be real.
You're in the bells and you're also in the swimming team.
I am.
Okay. Do you see anything from that you learned that can bring over and actually help you in presentation today?
Yeah. I think confidence. My swim, like bells, you have to be really confident in your dancing skills, and you have to be confident of hitting the correct movement and being precise with the movement. So I think that just being confident in presenting, because I'm not a big fan of getting in front of people and presenting. And swim, confidence too, but I think it's more, swim calms me down, and that's my how I get rid of my anxiety and stuff. So I'm thinking just right now, if I was thinking of swim, just act like I'm in a pool and like I'm swimming, so my anxiety is away.
Mr. Lee, do you have any further questions? Okay. So if there are no more questions, Mackenzie, please present your conclusion.
My conclusion thesis recap. By completing both artifacts, it shows I'm ready to advance to junior year due to giving 100% every day. I also, by completing all of the work for the sophomore defense and completing my coursework with a GPA of 3.9. My strengths and improvements. My strength is being able to understand all of the new concepts in both human body systems and chemistry. Without understanding these concepts, I wouldn't be where I am right now. Also, being able to complete the projects with all of the sports and practice that I have every day. I was dedicated and I completed both projects successfully. My improvements could be, I could be more confident in my work. With chemistry, with the essay, I was like slightly unconfident. And once I asked Mr. Delgado several questions and he confronted me and helped me,